Good morning, Flosstube. This is Pam, stitching between the lines. Today is Thursday, October 2nd, 2025, and this is Flosstube number 154. I have to look at my planner. I just wrote it down, but you know I have to make sure. So Flosstube. So let me just say this. I'm going to preface this video with I primarily make Flosstube videos, which is about cross stitch. It's a whole entire community of that. And books come in at the very end if I have books I want to talk about. I will just a simple highlight. I'm not up to the same level of book reviews and whatever as booktubers are, which is why I am prefacing this video with that explanation, is that my chair is like weird today. I don't know. Hopefully I won't fidget and move around. I bought this really nice new chair. This is a sweater on the back of it. It is, I think it's a Horn, which is the sewing machine cabinet maker, and it tips all different ways. And I think that it's tipping down in the front more than it should. I don't know. It's what it feels like right now. But so maybe I'll adjust my chair in a minute and then I won't have to fidget all around. Anyway, books. So I've been kind of watching, picking up and starting to follow some booktubers who are much like Flosstube. Their genre is books, and talking about books, dreaming about books, wishing they were reading certain books and whatever. It's just like that kind of thing, and commenting more on them. So that's what makes me think, as my name, Stitching Between the Lines, comes up in their comments, that they'll be like, oh, I wonder who this is. So a little bit of books, a lot of cross stitch. Go way to the end, last 5 minutes-ish, if you want to see what I've been reading, because I'm always reading something. Goodreads, I set my goal at 50 books a year, 52 books a year, which is a book a week, which I know is not the same caliber as everybody. Okay, hang on. Okay, same caliber as everybody. Add real reading aficionados, but I stitch all the time. Most of my most of my free time is either quilting or stitching. So I only do quilting a teeny tiny bit, so we won't even address that in the intro. So anyway, so it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fall day. Finally, not summer here in upstate New York, where we can have snow in October. By the end, I don't know, it's still possible. We haven't had rain in forever, so it's a terrible drought. I don't have allergies, except apparently when it's super dry, super, super, super dry. So yesterday, I wanted to make a video yesterday, but for the last 2 days, my nose would not stop running. So sorry. TMI, I guess, but I was just like, I could not be comfortable. Lake out front, out back is a huge field of whatever grows in a field and flowers beautifully in the summer. And apparently when it's super, super dry, there is something in the air. I think it's goldenrod. And what I would give for some rain. But anyway, it was very cold overnight, down in the 30s, high 30s, and everything was a misty, kind of wet morning-ish. The steam comes up off the lake, and so anyway, we're all sitting in all this condensation. So I'm hoping that kind of like tampered down the pollen, because generally I don't have allergies. We lived for the last, before we moved here, 15, 14 years, we lived across from a hayfield. No problems. Anyway, okay, that's a lot about me. So I've been stitching like a fiend for the month of September, because summer finally settled down, finally kind of had the days to myself, and baseball, tons of baseball. So that is excellent stitching. TV is so bad. I'm sure everybody knows. We don't care generally for the reality TV that's out there. I do like Amazing Race. I gave up Survivor a couple years ago. I just got tired of that. So we tend to watch like reruns every night, the same like reruns that are on maybe TBS and Me Too TV and whatever else. And sometimes we're just tired. We just think we cannot watch another Big Bang Theory rerun or something like that. So always been a fan of the Yankees. I'll put it out there, Yankees fan. I lived in New York most of my growing up years, so I come by it honestly. I can remember, here's a funny story about the Yankees in my youth. I, when I was in high school, in youth group at church, my brother and I were in that together, and somebody in the youth group leadership thought there was an interesting like PBS series that was going to start, and it was on Sunday nights, and that we would go to other people's houses, other members of the group, their houses every Sunday night to watch the PBS. I don't know. During the World Series, we watched the Yankees play. So maybe that's where that came from. That was such a fond memory. There was no grown up there. Like there was nobody there but the parents. And they, were a bunch of high school students. They're not hanging around. And they weren't saying, wait a minute, that's not the PBS station you're supposed to be watching. I was one of the youngest kids as like a ninth grader, being a high school student in youth group, and I sure as heck wasn't raising my hand and being like, "Hey, we're not watching the mysteries of whatever tonight." So anyway, maybe that's where I came into it. Although I went to an actual Yankees game the summer of 1976. Yeah, I wasn't in high school yet. Let's just say that. Get that age thing out there. I went with a friend, my best friend, and I went to her aunt and uncle's house in New Jersey for a week. And so they did all kinds of things with us. And they took us into to the Yankees game. And so again, I come by it honestly. Now, one of the reasons I like the Yankees, and this is going to show a sign of my age, I like the Yankees because they're clean cut. Like that's a requirement. There is nothing grosser than those overgrown bushy beards that all I can think about is the bacteria growing in them from the sweat, and the long hair and the baseball cap. Cannot stand that. So there you go. Is that more about me than you ever wanted to know? Probably. But anyway, there it is. So baseball, I'm getting a lot of stitching done because watching the Yankees, who are in the playoffs right now, they're not going to go very far. I'm just putting it out there. They're not. It's sad to say. They were tied for the top in the. See, this is how I'm a fair weather baseball fan. I watch when they get to the playoffs or the World Series, and that's about it. So this year with terrible TV, I said, you know what? Let's get a little bit more attached to the Yankees. My husband was a Mets fan. See, I'm circling back around to the same thing I said I was done with. My husband was a Mets fan when I met him. Again, born and raised New York. He grew up in the city, so he's has more of a reason to be. And there's only the two teams in New York, so Mets fan. And he finally kind of had to move away from the Mets, not because we dislike the Mets for any reason. My son-in-law is a Mets fan, but because we have a hard time getting him on TV, so we don't get the games. So anyway, here we are. We're watching the Yankees like it's our job. I can have conversations about who's doing what and who's playing crappy and who's due for something and who hasn't done a whatever and however long. So yeah, go me. Anyway, I'd love them to go further. More stitching in the evening time, more things to watch on TV. Anyway, okay, let's come back to reality, grounded, back to the cross stitch. That was really just explaining why I got so much done. So in September, my focus stitching, this is another reason besides the allergy nonsense that my Flosstube is a tiny bit late this month, is I wanted to have my focus piece done. And so I finished the actual stitching like on Friday, I think, Thursday, Wednesday last week, and I had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, some amount of days. No, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I was going to try to get the outlining done. That outlining just buried me alive. I could not, one evening I never picked it up because just the thought of it was more than I could stand. But I will get there and it will be done. Whether I show it to you again or not is up in the air. I didn't press anything. I'm not apologizing. Life is busy. If I did all these things, we might not have a video today. Rural Post Office at Christmas, a Bucilla kit. Oh, it's so gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Every element, as hard as it was to stitch sometimes, the shadowing, the way the trees are, and the outlining, and the sky, just makes this piece unbelievable. It's like a cross stitch made it. I should Google it. Again, more reasons why I'm just making the video. if I keep thinking up things I should be doing instead or in advance of it, there'd be no video. I believe it's a cross stitch after an oil painting. And like in an oil painting, a lot of things go on that just don't make sense color wise, but make the picture. For example, as I'm pointing to this door, um, so it makes it hard to outline because the areas that you are outlining do not make sense necessarily. Outlining all these parts of the grill or whatever it is, the vents, that was fine. It's just crazy chaotic. So the bricks, this is what's just got me, it's killing me, the bricks. So I'm going to come in really close up on this section of bricks. Can you see the ever so subtle yellow lines there in the stitching? That's what I'm done with. It's down to about here. I have this much to go. I think I have done, oh, I haven't done these bottom two cornerstones, but I have this to do. I mean, you can't, it doesn't jump out at you. You can't really see it, but there's enough of a subtle difference that gives those bricks some definition. It is a bear. It's a bear. There are, it's done on a piece of even weave, so it's not even Aida. So when a outline stitch runs across the middle of an X, you can get your needle in there to do it, but you're splitting an X one way or another, and that kind of is tough. This is tapestry thickness here. Don't even want to talk about how that's working out. But that is the bulk of the worst I have to do. I have to do the letters. That's another, I started to do them because a lot of the outlining is in the color that the letters are that say don't delay, mail today. I didn't bring the picture over. I figured we didn't need it. Because the letters also divide stitches, come up in the middle of a square somewhere, even though this is even weave stitching over two fabric threads, you're still splitting things. So Santa's very cute. Oh, I forgot, I have to do like his little, he has like, there's a couple French knots. One is his cheek and one is his nose, I think. We will see how those work out. I can make French knots perfectly nice. I just feel like I can't quite get from the pattern the effect they're supposed to have. So we'll see. So I have the words, the brick, the post office words. I started to get out the thread last night to do the word post office, and I just couldn't make myself do it. There's some ribbon on the gifts, the packages, and there's some stitching down here that, let me see if there's any on the other side. No, it's sort of like, oh, some tall on weeds or flowers or whatever that are still in the ground that are poking up through the snow. Just a little couple wisps of those over here. So it will get done. It is so close to done. We're going to call it done for Flosstube purposes. Isn't it? I just can't even. Part of what makes me think it won't be around when I do my November Flosstube is that if I can get it to the frame shop, I will. So yeah, woohoo! That is a big girl. But I like the big girls. So, yeah, just putting it together, putting it over there. I didn't even bring the project bag over here. So then what else? Let me pull out. I tried to stack my project bags in the order of events, but I tried. May or may not work out that way. My temperature birds, woohoo, all the way through the whole entire month of September, and I've started on the October row down there. On a day when I get it out and I do a few bird bodies, then maybe I'll do a few whatever bodies in the line. So this is October, November. I have to come down a little more, do December. Next year. If I start to make noise about doing a temperature a day, a stitch a day, anything a day that goes on for the whole year, somebody reach out and remind me how much I did not enjoy that as time went by. I'm looking at the text I just got. I have my phone. This is just so a moment of comedic relief, right? We all know me here, right? I'm retired. I take care of my grandkids occasionally. Okay, that was going to be news later. My granddaughter. Um, have no interest in a job, don't want a job, nothing to do with a job. So here's somebody who wants to hire me for $100 to $500 per day, doing I don't know what for I don't know who. I don't know where people get my it's like it went to three people, me and two other people. Oh, it has a 663 number that start out with, so I don't even know what country that is. So I like to report junk, but now I'm wising up and doing the blocking. Not that it matters one bit. Don't want a job. Don't text me. Remember when you could tell your phone, like you could be set so you did not get any junk texting because every text costs you money? Well, that doesn't work anymore. Anyway, let's get back to the matter at hand. These are my temperature birds. I'm doing them two colors, the high and the low for the day. And so they look like a bunch of parakeets, which is adorable. Love it. Here's a conundrum question. Let's see. Here is my picture. This was Temperature Birds came out for 2023 by Christie's Corner. I just bought the PDF download, so this is my printout. So you can't see the whole picture because then there's this picture in the middle of it. But this is at the end of October. It is not happening, not happening, not happening. And from the pattern, I had no idea that this was a spider. Maybe I'll put that in. I'm not sure. From the stitching side of it, when you look at, because it's a downloaded PDF, when you look at it, the only thing that you see is this black blob with two green eyes. So I had no idea what that was. A spider's not so horrible, but you know I do not stitch these unless I absolutely don't want to talk about it. It's still the season when, oh, I showed you my back, when, you know, they encroach on my territory. Yeah, we don't have a cat anymore. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. So then what else am I doing? So I have my whip goes for September. One of them was number 14. Tags on my bags. I broke the zipper on the bag, so it doesn't zip anymore. So it's a conundrum as to what to do. This was a bag that I did the stitching and I made the bag obviously. And then you put it, you stitch it over one of those canvas kind of bags. So I really could pull all the stitching out and put a new bag in there. Or I could just use it without, you know, zipping it. This was number 14, Candy Cane Wishes, with my needle and thread. And I actually had a finish, which I don't know if that's been happening a lot with my whip goes. We're getting into all my bigger pieces. So it is so cute, so cute. And it didn't take that long. That's one of the reasons why I love my whip go methodology this year, is I am pulling out things that could have long ago been worked on. Oh, that's on a piece of 28 count Pompous, which I believe is a Picture This Plus. My label doesn't tell me that, but I'm pretty sure it is. So that's another blank square on my whip go board that gets to be filled next year, which we're not going to really talk about right now, but plans are formulating in my brain. And then the other whip go was number 18, and for me that was Sugar Plum Village, which, hello, it looks like a European Christmas village. Sign me up. And what I managed to get done was a little bit less than I had hoped, but it's still a very good stopping point, as I got the border done. I could have kept going, and I was going to start this like little row of trim so that was ready for me to start putting some houses on it, and then I just didn't because I had a lot of other things I was working on. Rural post office at Christmas, for example. So this one will go back in and be square number 18 again for next year. And then I had a gift pattern that somebody sent me. And it was this Sampler Seasons Winter by Blueberry Ridge. And I had done spring. I had done spring this year. And winter was the other one I liked and had put on my wish list. So I'm stitching it with, I believe it's called for Weeks Dye Work Shepherd's Blue. Here's one of the messes. It's a loose strand and one more ply left. So it took me almost the entire skein to do the border. I did the border, the whole border, and a little bit of the inside, just a tiny bit. That's a needle. There's a needle in there. I was doing some letters. I loved sorry about that. Somebody's here that does some regular outside maintenance, and I just wanted to close my window, pull the blind down, because they go around the house. Anyway, I loved the way the border was irregular like that. It was so fun to work on. And mine came out perfectly right, but I loved the way they gave you a little bit of grace at the ends where this small border pattern matches up with the big one. Even down here in this corner, if you had been off, this is the kind of thing it's hard to be off. I stitched something wrong in one of these big ones, and I mean, the minute I had one of these little half square triangles was flipped around. Like if you were making a quilt, this would be a half square triangle. It was flipped around the wrong way, and it just jumped right out at me the next day when I picked it up again. So this one will go by my chair, which I will pull out occasionally. Let's hope. Let's hope. Person's outside the window. Like I pulled the blind down. It's creepy. It won't be long. Okay, so that one goes by my chair. And then we have the whip goes for October. One of them being number 17, and it's Eliza's French Birds. This one has just, I think Elizabeth Ann Can't Stitch did it. It's entirely possible she changed some colors, but maybe not. I just love the colors. And then I bought somebody somewhere online, had to be a Flosstube, posted a frame that they bought from Amazon that was the blue shade of this one. And I have the frame. Mine is oval, I think. Supposed to fit whatever size this picture comes out to, 5 by 7-ish, something like that. It's surprisingly small. So I have there's a couple DMC pinks in there too. So that is a call for October. It doesn't feel very Octoberish, but I don't really necessarily need to stitch by the season. That doesn't even occur to me. Doesn't even cross my brain. So we are starting to run out of room with a cascading mess on the floor. And then whip go number 6 was this old Mary Gary's stitching cabin. Mary Gary's sewing cabin. The ice skating party, which I loved it the first time I ever saw it. And I am going to stitch this one, which is another small piece, but I still make no promises. My objective is generally to work for the first half of the month on one and the second half of the month on another. I haven't even started anything. Neither of them are really jumping out at me, but I usually try to start true to the schedule, the 1st and the 15th or 16th, but didn't work out. Again, there was outlining that was totally raining on my parade. And so those are 2 Octobers. Let me do this one next. My October focus piece is seasonal, despite my not really feeling the need to go seasonally. Madame LaFay's the night Halloween, Halloween night. I got this, one of my kids got this, my son and daughter-in-law got this for me, I think for Mother's Day last year. And I worked on it a time or two. And you know, a time or two is a monthly focus. And we are here. I put about 10 stitches in last night, which is not very many. Love her borders. These pictures are so much more stitch dense than you can imagine from the pictures. This is the second one of hers I've done, and I'm going to persevere and try to get myself through this, because to me this is the most difficult section. I believe the pattern comes in 6 pages. I don't think it's 9, but there's a lot of pages, and there's no graying out. And when you're doing something as difficult as this, and if I try to butt the pages up against each other, but they each have a border of white paper around them. And the pages don't really line up as straight as you'd think. You're kind of like pulling one down a fraction of an inch to get a line to be right. And I cannot, no matter what I do, bring myself to work in like page blocks or 10-inch blocks. I don't see a picture that way. It kind of makes me crazy. It's not what stitching is about. I don't know. You don't paint a picture like by the, I don't know. So I'm trying very hard to stay true to what stitch goes where, and then follow over in the next page a little bit, so that when I flip the page, I really can pick up at the edge roughly. I'm opposed to like the blocking off of a block or the edge of a page. It'd be nice if they grade some of this out. I do believe in here are some copies that I taped together. We'll see. For some reason, I tend not to care for that. Don't ask. Don't ask. Clearly, I can make my way through a big, complicated pattern. I'm just going to complain about it while I'm doing it. And then another thing I'm pulling out to work on, which I don't even, I got the fabric out and serged it. And that was it. Oh, and I fixed because it's a kit, I fixed the colors on the card. So they're all there. I should show you guys the good side. Like this, we'll see how long this lasts. Color cards sometimes get a little worn out. These kind of get a little worn out. It's funny, because in this pattern, which I will show you, I really will, there's this much thread organizer with a couple blanks here and there. And then there's another little card that's got about, it fell on the floor, has about 10 little holes in it and 2 rows. Yeah, we still have to do like where there's there's several of these where there's 2 colors in one hole. Yes, I could move them out. As I started, I did not know where anything was gonna go. So I'm gonna have to move this one down, separate out these with 2 colors in there, because that's just stupid. Not only that, but it's like it says in the instructions card A and card B, and card A is 1 through, what is that, 15, and then this one. And then card B is also 1 through 15, except that the card itself was numbered 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way to 30, which was kind of weird. If you weren't a practiced cross stitcher, you would go a little crazy. So I am working on this. I probably will not show you progress and probably not really show you a finish. I have stitched stockings for my family and my daughter-in-law, and my daughter has stitched her husband's and her daughter's stockings. So I have done all of them except for those 2. I'm about to start another one because we have another baby coming. We actually have 2 babies coming this winter. My daughter with the 2-year-old is having a boy in early winter, midwinter, early-ish winter. And my son and his wife are having a baby around Christmas time. So the 2 babies are due like 6 weeks apart, and they are both little boys. So my daughter with the cross stitches, she will make her baby a stocking, and then I will make the other baby a stocking. And so it won't be ready for this Christmas. That's the first time there's ever been a baby or a new member of the family who didn't have a stocking right away, which I'm not trying to put it out there that this baby be born late, meaning after Christmas. So the mom and dad tell me it is just fine. So there we go. I'm looking around at all my different things to see what I have to talk about left. I brought my old iPad over here so I can pull up my Goodreads, because I know that I don't have all the books with me that I read. So I'm just looking through. I did do a lot of quilting in, actually in August. I don't really show a lot of quilting, but I did bring something over here to show you. I'm gonna have to do a search because Goodreads is not hopping up at me. Goodreads. I did, so for Christmas last year, a friend gave me this kit. It came in this box. I love a pattern that comes in a box that just speaks to me. I can't even tell you how much I enjoy that. So it is, I didn't really know that Melissa Gilbert had a line of fabric and maybe a pattern line in conjunction with Riley Blake, but there it is. And I made it last spring, and then I finally quilted it in August, and then in September I sewed the binding down. So we'll just do a quick little pan of the table runner, which is a nice size. That's a good size table runner. Yeah. So I like a nice size table runner. If you're going to put it like on the dining room table, it really needs to, you know, make a statement. So cute and fun and cute. I was able to get some more of the actual fabric line to do the back and the border. Very common that a kit doesn't come with backing and border fabric. That's just the way it is. I'm pretty sure it didn't come with border fabric. I might be wrong. Pattern fabric, a general garden path, backing fabric, and notions on a. Oh, it had the border or the binding, just not the backing. So I did that, stitched that. Now I have a fabulous box ready to hold, I don't know whatever I want it to. Okay, reading. I did get a lot of reading done in September. So let me see where to start. My favorite book, the book with the biggest story behind it, Anne of Green Gables, the graphic novel variety. If you're unfamiliar with graphic novels, they're very, very popular in the sort of YA genre. First of all, when my daughter and I did the library, the Gold Library Card tour this last spring and summer, where we visited every library in our library system, 42 of them that encompass 4 counties. One of the libraries we went to had some books out on display, and I could have checked it out of that library, but I didn't want to. At the time, I think we were leaving for our big trip to Switzerland within days, a week, and I knew I wouldn't get it read and then returned. So anyway, my daughter, my youngest daughter, is a very avid reader, and she makes a serious effort to read classics and reread books that maybe she had to read in high school and couldn't appreciate, like Little Women, for example, did not appreciate, to read them again as an adult. So anyway, she's an avid reader, and we were saying that neither of us I had never read Anne of Green Gables, and so this was on display, and I mentally took note of it because I thought, well, maybe this would be a fun way to read it. So a graphic novel is literally almost like reading a comic book. That's kind of what it feels like. This is not the first graphic novel I've read. I have read some good books, but the artwork is just amazing. And it was such a joy. It was really enjoyable, and I'm very glad I read it in this way, because it would have been, the story, I mean, it's not meant for, 60-something-year-old ladies to read, really. It would have bored me to tears. So I could read this, and Anne of Green Gables, the graphic novel version, and now I'm going to give it to my daughter, who will take it, and it can be in her classroom. I said, put it in your classroom or donate it to, the school library, because she said, oh, kids will love it, that kind of novel. Um, Somewhere on here, somewhere in all of this, I saw where there was the information as to like how to order enough for a classroom to read, which is what made me think, oh, I'm not just going to donate this to the local thrift store, which has a whole room of used books, which is one of the places I give books to, and one of the places I shop for books. Used book sale, library book sales, in the thrift store. Yeah, there's information in here on schools, how to order like enough copies like for a classroom. So that was enjoyable. So I read that, and then I need to open them up. This one, where did I get this one? I don't know if I got this out of the library. This is one of the books that I keep hearing about on the booktubes. Home is Where the Bodies Are, by Geneva Rose. This was a good book. It started out in the way where parents are gone, the last parent passes away, and all the siblings have to come home. And it started out like almost too, I don't want to use the word trite, but if you read a lot of books, if you read books that are that kind of storyline, there's always the one who was like there at the end. They're the most put upon. There's always the one who underachieved and the overachiever, and the one who left home and made the greatest success out of their life but didn't have contact with the family forever. There's the one that's really a train wreck. So it always kind of follows that same sort of plot line. And so it starts out like that. And then we start discovering like some, where the bodies are. So it took on that whole element, which really put it into a whole different light and was enjoyable, quite enjoyable of a read. So Geneva Rose, Home is Where the Bodies Are. Hold that up there for a minute. And I might have gotten that out of the library. Oh, back to Goodreads. I'm not done yet. Do not put that away. Yeah, I think I did get that out, like the ebook from the library. Somebody recommended to me that I read The Women by Kristen Hanna. Kristen Hanna writes some masterful books. I was very excited when this book came out to read it, because, I'm a big fan of MASH, except it's the most un-PC TV show that's still on, I think. I can't believe, that is how life was back then. The way people talk to each other, the way men talk to women, anyway. So this is about a nurse that joins the army to go to Vietnam. But here's the thing. The main character was not likable. It's just like, how stupid are you? She's a nurse. She's just became a nurse, barely worked as a nurse. And her brother goes off to Vietnam. I think he's in the Navy, not the Army. And he gets killed. Well, before he got killed, she said, I'm going to go. I'm going to be a military nurse. I'm going to go be with my brother, my big brother, my best friend, whatever. I idealized blah, blah she had. And so off she goes. And, first she couldn't join whatever he was in. A couple branches wouldn't take a nurse that didn't go through like a couple-year training program, but the Army would take you right straight. And so off she goes with zero idea. And the war rages on, and everybody back home is, protesting the war and whatever was happening in that genre. As anybody who's familiar knows, there's much protests and life-changing events going on in that time. That's all going on. She's kind of clueless to it. She's over there. She does 2-year stint. She, forms relationships with some other nurses and some other Army men, doctors. But I feel like any storyline, this is what I heard about the book that made me not want to read it. And this is very, very true. I do not like it when an author is trying to teach us something. And it's not like I don't want to read a book that has some interesting facts in it. But it's like every single thing that happened to anybody, any nurse that went off to Vietnam happens to her. Everything, and she had two nurse friends. And so one of them being African American, one of her brothers gets killed in the riots, LA riots in the early 70s, late 60s, race riots. And so it's just like everything happened to all of them, her primarily. And after a while, that's tedious. And you just think that, didn't care for the book was good. It was a good book. It had lots of great, the story moved along. It had lots of great plot lines and whatever, but it was a little heavy in the, all right already category. Sorry if you recommended it. I did read it. And Kristen Handa, she's so worth reading. I just felt like, and maybe, it's very likely that the generation of women that kind of book appeals to were not around when Vietnam was in the war and all the things that were happening. My brother had a bracelet for a soldier who was MIA, and watched the news every night till his name was called and that kind of thing. So I was around. Anyway, more reading. Let's move on to my favorite book, Alice McDermott's After This. Now, I read another book. I might have to look on my Goodreads to figure out what the other book was. So I felt like I bought this at, oh, that's it. I bought this at probably the used library book sale, and I thought the author was somebody familiar. So I thought, just picked it up, of course. And when did it come out? Like in 2006. I loved this book. It's very much a slice of life story where we start out with a young woman, and it's post World War II. She's living with a brother and her father. Her mother has since passed away, and a brother died during the war, and she's part of a typing pool in an office in New York City, and she meets a man. And so then, we go through a chapter where we're seeing her at this age of her life. And then the next chapter, she's married to him, and it's a chapter that encapsulates a little stretch of time. And then some time goes on. It goes through her entire life, and these little snippets and the children and their lives, little chapters about their lives. I found this so, like, I just felt like as I'm reading each chapter, whether I liked what they were going through in their life or not wasn't the point. It was, you were just there. You could feel it when the one son went off to Vietnam, and what he did on the day before he left was just like, I was in the car with him. I just felt like I was there. Like, his experience felt so real. And it was just an awesome story. Alice McDermott. After This, I liked it. It was one of those books. I was so sad when it was done. The after effect lingered, the book hangover lingered for days, just days of like, oh, I wish I was still reading that one. But sadly, I was not. Liked it. When I really like a book, I don't want to get rid of it, so it goes on my shelf. I do not keep a lot of books. I know people, I used to have shelves and shelves of books, and then I moved. And moving books will take away the desire to save books. I still have books. There's more to be read books. I'm looking at a bookshelf over here. There's more to be read books than there are already read books that I keep. I figure a book should be shared. There should be a way for other people to read the story too, good, bad, or indifferent. So let me talk about this book. So last video, I talked about reading a James Patterson book called The 19th Christmas. I don't think it was the 25th Christmas, was it? I should have my facts straight when I sit down to talk to you guys, right? The 19th Christmas. So, and it's the 19th book in a series that include 4 of the same characters. So they don't really give you any background on the people. So I kind of didn't really know where it all came from. So I went and got from the library the very first one of that series, First to Die, James Patterson. Now, not anything wrong with the story, but it's more an author issue. I had to look at the front of the book to see when this was published, which I think was 2008. 2008, keep that in mind. I'm looking. 2005, not that much different. 2005. So the main first character that we meet in this whole series of characters is a police detective. So in San Diego, San Francisco, somewhere in California. So she sees some things. And she goes to this murder scene, and there's 2 murdered people, and it's however much gory. I don't know. I didn't get the impression it was like unbelievably gory. And then she's later in the day or whatever, she's back at the precinct or something, and like the captain says, you really should go home and take a nap after what you saw. Like, I had to look to see, was this like 1972? Like, that's the mindset. Like, the author really thought that and wrote that and thought in 2005, like, oh, poor little dear, she saw 2 murdered bodies. She's going to need a little time off to recover from it. I mean, police detective, so not even, somebody unindoctrinated into a murder scene. So that kind of put me off from then on when an author has like zero clue. Another book I read, which I think I got this one from somebody from BookTube, was Small Nights Like These. Small Things. Do I want it to be night because it looks like night? Small Things Like These by Craig Keegan. Claire, okay. Editing tools. Did I even bother to edit my can't read backwards? Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan was such a nice story. It takes place in Ireland at Christmas time, a father of several children, several daughters, and just some interaction he has leading up to. It's a feel-good kind of story around some sad circumstances. So that was good. Apparently it was an Oprah Book Club selection for 2024. I did not buy the book, so I'm guessing I got it from either the library. Oh, it was free on Audible, I think, for a little stretch of time. Fortunately, the stretch of time I went looking. And that was that was a lot of books to talk about. My current read is All the Way Home, which has been on my TBR shelf for a while. All the Way Home by David Giffels. He's a columnist for a newspaper in Akron, Ohio, and says he was a writer, used to be a writer for Beavis and Butthead. I didn't hold that against him because I have to say I really didn't watch Beavis and Butthead. It's the kind of show I would not have encouraged my teenage son to watch. Does he look like one of the characters on that show, though? That's the thought I had. I'm like, oh, he kind of looks like one of those. I don't know if it's Beavis or Butthead. And also an essayist for NPR. So his book reads much like his witty, like columns he might include in his newspaper or whatever. So it's an easy read, but it's about a man who's all very fixer-upper kind of guy. Even if he has no training, that's like the burning desire he has. So he and his wife buy this falling down old house, and it's about them fixing it up. And there is some eerie parallels between my husband and I and our journey through our houses. I'm going to just say an old house versus a new house, it's like the same trip because it's an experience either way, and none of it is perfect. So that was a lot of stuff. It is, wow, that's a long video, mostly attributed to books. I should go back to the beginning of time of this video and say, not just the last 5 minutes for books, should you be checking in for books, but But if you check in the last 5 minutes and discover I'm on my last book, you'll know to back up a little bit. So that's what I've been doing, stitching, reading, watching some BookTube and Flosstube. I have done a little bit of revamping of who I watch on Flosstube. No offense to anybody, but sometimes after a while I'm like, okay, already. Oh, there was something else I wanted to do. Let me just look around till I see it that I wanted to talk about. Where is it? There it is. I'll be right back. That feels a little bit unprofessional for me not to just stop it and start it, but on my iPad there is not a pause button. It's either stop it and start it and then put it together at the end or in editing, or, I'll just hang on for half a minute. So I know people have been watching Flosstube, even if for a short time, a long time, I don't know how long, maybe knew Minnie Gray, who I honestly do not know her Flosstube channel because I did not watch her Flosstube channel. But I met Minnie Gray at the very first StitchCon here. I will put a picture of her and I together because Minnie got my smalls in the small exchange. So I met her, knew who she was, and knew when the news spread that she had passed away. Was sad because that's sad. And then I discovered somewhere that McKenna of 1849 Stitchery. Wow. I will try to put it at the end what her shop is. She buys patterns and whatnot to resell. So she apparently bought Minnie's stash from her family, and she did a beautiful video of showing everything that was in her stash, and said, if you're interested in any of it, let me know. I'll be posting them on my website for sale. And so she showed one that I watched for like a day or two to see if she would post it. And then I thought, you know what? She said multiple times, just let her know if there was something you wanted. So one of the things she showed was this ironwork gate, which is a CW Designs pattern. Now, the designer for CW Designs passed away, maybe last summer, sometime in the last year-ish. And so these designs are not being sold anymore. And I have a design, it's all kitted up, and I think about starting it, but that's, how that goes. It'll be kitted for a long time. Someday I'll pull it out and start it, or someday it'll be up for sale somewhere. So this one. So Minnie had started this one, and here it is. It surprises me how small it is. Like, I had no idea it was so small. The fabric is kind of dirty. It's got some dirty spots on it. But she's got kind of across the middle work done. So I reached out to McKenna, and for a very, very, what I thought was a very reasonable price, she sold me the kit. And it's being worked on a piece of white 16 count Aida. There's a tag in the bag. So I bought that. And then because I was there, hello, who's not going to shop? I picked up this. And I picked up this Stitch an Inch, which I love the concept of these, and both those patterns I'm really hoping I don't already have, but they were really just a few dollars, so I bought it because I don't know, I have a Stitch an Inch, one of them, but I'd like to think it's fall. And then Lenarte kit, which I just thought was beautiful. It was in the kit, the bag, the whole thing, all in here. I believe that the kit was originally in a box back when they used to do boxes, because this picture is like cut out of the cardboard box. If I held it up right side up, not that you can't tell, it's a couple forsythia flowers. No, not bleeding hearts. No, yes, I don't know. I'm just blanking. Every year I have to get a hanging baskets because the hummingbirds love them. And it was in a package with the floss and the fabric and the pattern, obviously. It's a pretty big piece of fabric. I feel a little bit like, I don't know. Again, I'm not afraid of a nice big pattern. So anyway, those are the things I purchased. And I just really thought that was a nice way of honoring Minnie, is to let the cross stitch community have a little piece of what she was working on. So McKenna had a variety of patterns and kits and started pieces and a few finished pieces. I have not been back to the website to see what is still on her website, but she had a file tab that was specifically named Minnie's Legacy, I think. It's obvious there's not a whole lot of tabs to choose from. So there. That has entered my stash world. And October will be a fun one, I think. Knock on wood. I always think they'll be fun, full of fun stitching and all the good things. So, well, thank you for sticking with me for an hour. You know, I almost never do hour-long videos. So when you see the time, you got to know I must have something good going on. So I will get to getting this organized and uploaded. And yeah, see you soon.